And we are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today with Rue McKenrick, who is the founder or originator of the American Perimeter Trail. And we're going to talk about all kinds of awesome things today about the trail. And my name is Dr. Gabriella Kőrösi, and I am the owner of the publication Dancing Elephant Press. And we just recently published an amazing book for Rue about the first volume of the American Perimeter Trail. So we're going to talk about that and many other amazing and fascinating things. So please, if you have any questions, just put it in the message, and I'm going to turn it over to Ruth just to introduce himself and say a few words to start with.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Gabriella. And it's such an honor to be here with you and get a chance to talk about my favorite subject, which is not me, but to talk about the American Perimeter Trail. It is a passion of mine. It's after many years of long distance backpacking and also working with different conservation organizations, came up with the idea of creating a conservation corridor that roughly traces the perimeter of the United States. And in doing so, I backpacked the distance, which originally I thought was going to be about 14,000 miles, and it turned more into like 15. And recently I've decided to share all that and basically explain to people what happened for that continuous over 3 years of backpacking. And I've done this and starting a series called The American Perimeter Trail. And there are 4 volumes. And the first one is published, the second edition, and working on the second volume right now.
Which is very exciting, which I am going to get a preview of it, which thank you for allowing me to do that and help you with publishing the first book and the next upcoming book. And I just want to say, many people might not think of all the different kind of things that could happen on a trail like that. Hi, Susie. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm talking to Rue, who is the founder of the American Perimeter Trail. And right now, I'm just thinking of all the different mishaps that could happen. Of course, there's all the beauty, which I love, all the beauty when you go out to nature and see the amazing sunsets and among being nature. But I think it could be really helpful if you talk about maybe a few things that people should be prepared for when they go out on a trail like this, right? And it's just kind of from the safety perspective, I think it would be good because you have this immense experience of walking 15,000 miles, which I think we can probably talk about forever. My perspective as a healthcare professional and a public health professional, I'm like, oh my God, when I read your book and saw all those, different things that could happen from dehydration to wounds to all kinds of things. I would love to hear about what your advice is and what kind of some of the things that you went through when you joined the trail. And I just want to say welcome, Chris and Gideon. Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, I'll just preface by saying that I'm often asked about my planning for such an excursion, which ended up pretty much taking up 5 years of my life. And I'm clear about this. I didn't really plan because planning, what I found over the years, and what I found was that planning was sometimes futile because you think over such a long period of time, you think things are going to happen a certain way, and they just don't. It's that idea of like when we make plans, God laughs or whatever. So, so for me, it wasn't as much about planning as it was about preparation. And the preparation took place over, all of my adult life. And that was through hiking the Appalachian Trail, through hiking the Continental Divide Trail, through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, through hiking the Long Trail, et cetera, et cetera. So the preparation was there, and the planning wasn't as important because I had the solid foundation to work with. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just also say that, my intentions for creating the American Perimeter Trail is to create a conservation corridor. And this is very
Yes.
much informed by my experience from childhood to the present. And
Mm-hmm.
so my intention was not that someone would see this and want to find the hardest, the most hardcore, longest trail on the planet and go hike it. My
Mm-hmm.
intention was to put land into a conservation corridor and create a connection between villages all around the country and create more recreational opportunities for people who wanted to go out for a picnic or for a day hike or for a weekend backpack. So there are experiences that I had while I was out there, and I'm pretty open about it in the writing. I wasn't as open about it when I was actually out there. And I kind of had
Mm-hmm.
my reasons. Some of that was I honestly didn't want to scare people, people
Yeah.
that care about me. Um, I knew what kind of risk that I was taking, and I wasn't expecting anyone else to. So I'll give you an example of how I've approached that. So, for instance, the route through Death Valley, there wasn't a route, and there's not trails there, and there's not long trails. There's just quick
Mm-hmm.
out and backs because they want to keep you close to your vehicle in case you get in
Yes.
trouble. So there's not a long trail that goes through the park, which most national parks do have trails like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to just, I use Map and Compass, and I found my own route through that section of the American Perimeter Trail. And what I found out after that was that it was not going to be part of the American Perimeter Trail.
Okay.
Um, and the reason for that was because of safety precautions. So since then, I've had a lot of people contact me and ask me for my route and for the information so that they can do it. And I just am not going to ever share that information
Mm-hmm.
because in my mind, it's like if you have to, if you need that much guidance, maybe
It
it's
shouldn't
not
be
the
out
right
there.
activity for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't, and I really would, I mean, I would feel horrible if someone got hurt, um,
Yeah.
or worse. So I think like as far as preparation, you know, even though I completed the Triple Crown in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
that was a culmination of many day hikes and many overnights leading up to that. So I wouldn't say be afraid to go do an overnight. Um,
Yeah.
Even if you want to do a long trail on a popular trail where there's going to be other through hikers, of
Mm-hmm.
course. But my idea of what safety is and what your idea of safety is and what you're comfortable are very so, the trail itself I took out, I did not include the most extreme parts of the route in the final route. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just a decision that I had to make. But there still is some pretty treacherous areas. So, um, just try to be a fair weather hiker.
Yeah.
And like when you're looking at what you're going to be taking with you, uh, don't take things out of fear that aren't going to help you. Like, I had one of my doctor friends sent me in the mail one time like a whole kit, and it was to staple myself back together if something happened. Now,
Oh
that
wow.
could have been useful, but also like 20 pounds of maybe something you're never going to use is
Yeah.
could get
Mm-hmm.
you into a situation rather than help you out. And if I'm in a position where I have to staple myself back together, I probably have other problems uh,
Mm-hmm.
besides just like using the stapler. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to like scare people away from the experience, but it's just like anything else. You practice, you ease your way into it. Yeah, you get accustomed with the outdoors. I'm not a big fan of advocating for people to carry like electronic devices to save them. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. Um, I, personally, I feel like that puts a lot of rescuers' lives in danger
Mm-hmm.
when people are using devices to get rescued that can probably walk out on their own. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a good idea, but anything can happen. I mean, I've lost cell phones before. Um, batteries go dead, service. So um, I wouldn't. I'm not the best person to necessarily give advice as far as like do what I do, but
But you're already doing that. I mean, why do you think you're not doing it? I mean, you just mentioned not to rely on those things, right? Because they might
yeah,
not work. So we don't want somebody to go out there just with a cell phone and say, "Oh, I'm gonna be okay because I have my cell phone." Because you're right. Many times the connections are not good in this type of situation, in the trails or in the mountains or in a valley. You might not have that cell reception, and the weather could mess up your cell reception as well. So it's good to not rely on technology just
yeah,
on its own. And it's
you know,
also
s
important to prepare. I mean, you done the Triple Crown. You were an experienced hiker. You know you kind of know somewhat what you're getting into, and you still got into some troubles. So I still think it's a good advice. You want to tell a little bit about your vision, like how this came all about? How did you dream of the American Perimeter Trail?
well, the story is. I mean, this is the genesis story. It's not that interesting. I'd completed the Triple Crown, which is Continental Divide Trail, Appalachian Trail, and Pacific Crest Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a ski hill one day and wasn't really thinking about backpacking, was kind of thinking more about skiing or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really thinking about like what's next, what's the next big trail to do. Like I'm not a conqueror really, and so I'm more of a poet than a conqueror. And so, uh,
Whatever works. Still, you had
s-
a vision.
yeah, yeah, to each their own. And I was at the ski hill. There was a large map there of the ski area, and I don't know why, but it triggered something in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I have visions often, and I feel like everybody in the world has visions, but to some of us, we may interpret that as like daydreaming. But
Yeah.
to me, I I interpret it differently than that
Mm-hmm.
when I have these kinds of visions. And so I had one where it had me, and I just like was looking at the map and I could see the United States and I could kind of picture like what a route around the perimeter of it would be. And it all just came together in that minute. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like a bright light kind of moment, but it was this
Mm-hmm.
moment where I clearly understood right from the beginning, like, oh, this isn't going to be a trail that I'm just going to go hike. This is going to be something that I create and that I can
Mm-hmm.
share with people and that we can get designation for this. So the whole picture kind of came together. And honestly, if I wanted to start working on a route right now, today, not at the time, but with the
Mm-hmm.
technology now, I could do that from my couch. But
Yeah.
I just, in that moment, I knew I was going to take like my abilities that I had in working for different conservation nonprofits and then also my backpacking experience. And I was going to kind of bring these things together and start working on this thing. But that's not what happened, Dr. Gabriella. Um, what happened was I was like most people have a dream and am kind of overwhelmed by it.
Mm-hmm.
And life happens. And
Yeah.
so I didn't run out the next day. I mean, I didn't run out and was like, okay, this has to happen. I wouldn't step onto the American Perimeter Trail, onto the route, for another 10 years. So,
Wow.
so during that time, maybe once a year, it would just come back in there. I would be sleeping and have a dream, and it would come back
Mm-hmm.
into my consciousness, and it would really rattle me for like 2
Mm-hmm.
days or so. I'd be thinking about this,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this. And then I would start contacting people and I would start asking, is this possible? How could this be done? And then within a couple of days, I would realize, like, I just think this is too difficult. After I
Mm-hmm.
would talk with people and get more information, I would feel like, I don't think this is a good idea. Maybe it's a good idea, but I don't know if I don't know that it's for me or if it's for anyone
Mm-hmm.
really. And that would
Yeah.
happen like once a year. And then eventually I just had, there's an amount of suffering that comes with not sharing your gifts with the world. And that's for all artists and creators, whether you're an architect or you're a songwriter. And so I felt like I got to a point where I was either going to do it or I was just never going to think about it ever again, move on. Um, because I because I was feeling pain around it,
Yeah.
feeling pain. And
Yeah.
people were telling me about sharing your gifts, and like that's what we're here to do, is to share your gifts. And I wasn't until I was. And then full on, I left very quick from Bend, Oregon when I actually decided to do it. It wasn't like years of planning or preparation like I talked about. Or I pretty much, when I decided, I was gone within weeks. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Isn't that amazing though, that it was percolating for about
Yeah.
10 years? So I think that can give a lot of hope to people who have dreams, but it maybe just not the right time, or just as you were saying, you were just not ready, or it seemed maybe impossible, or you know, and then at some point you made that decision though. You made that decision that I am going to do this. And then you did it within weeks. I mean, I think that is phenomenal, right? Um, Even though it went through a lot of pain and suffering, because of course, I mean, we have a dream. It's like you want that to happen,
Mhm.
but also it might not be able to happen for a while. And you did it. I mean, how many people can say that they walked, the American perimeter of this huge country of about 15,000 miles? That's just such an amazing accomplishment. Like, I I don't even know if there's really a word for it. Like, we need to reinvent a new word for what you have done because I don't think there's anything to describe it. It's just so, it's magical. It has beauty, it has hardship, it has pain, it has sweat, it has just this um phenomenal accomplishment to do what you did. I hope you feel that it's pretty amazing what you have done. And I know that especially with the fundings right now and all these kind of things, things go up and down. But I really hope that your efforts will pay off, and there's going to be end result when there's going to be a stamp on this and it says, yes, we are protecting. We are protecting what Rue started, and and you and you done it. And this is one of those things that feeling aware people to help you, because you're right, you don't have to do this alone. You can share your dream, and even if it's later, you're sharing it now, and you shared before. You have done a lot of interviews and things like this for it. So I think even though it took such a long time, it is amazing what you have done.
I guess I had certain specific goals when I started, and
Hmm.
some of the things that have been accomplished weren't on that list. And I guess that's
Okay.
what I feel good about, because ultimately there's the personal journey aspect of it.
Hmm.
But in my mind, I often wasn't looking at it from that perspective. I still don't.
Mm-hmm.
I still want the American Perimeter Trail to be a household name, not my
Mm-hmm.
name.
Mm-hmm.
And at the core of it, um, we are going to be seeking designation for this as time goes on. I created the nonprofit, which is called the American Perimeter Trail Conference. And I guess that's kind of been my barometer on how I gauge success here.
Mm-hmm.
When I finished, and maybe I'm just too hard on myself, but I wasn't
Maybe.
taking a victory. I wasn't taking a victory lap.
Yeah.
I was tired.
Of course.
I had been alone for a couple years, and I finally was home, and then I was gone within 48 hours, not expecting that because the work continued. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I finished the actual trail, that's kind of like when the real work has started and some of the major hardships of the entire journey. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to create the world's first 15,000-mile long hiking app. And
Yeah.
also that we were able to provide that for free. I mean, we haven't made a
Mm-hmm.
dollar off of that. And that cost, I mean, I'm not going to go into the numbers here, but just it cost a lot of money to build the team and
Mm-hmm.
create that. Um, and so I'm very proud of that we've been able to offer that and serve our community in that way. Um, and I'm very proud of each day, like further steps that we take in this process. And maybe one of these days I'll be able to just like sit back and relax and celebrate the fact that I actually backpacked it.
Yes. Like, I don't know how many people in the world can actually do what you have done and create this map. I mean, I'm thinking of Lewis and Clark, and they had to find their way. You kind of know where you were going, but then you had to change your route many times because of
Yeah.
different things that happened. And and you had to stop because of injuries, and you went back on the trail. And I mean, now I read your book, I think like three times, the first one. And each time I'm reading, there's just something new in it that, you discover. And some of it is the experience, but some of it is like the feeling behind it, what you're saying. Like there's also kind of like a spiritual aspect of it. And I think the more you read and understand it, the more I know you as a person, I can feel like those almost like read behind the words.
Mhm.
And and I think it's also amazing how many wonderful people you have met on the
Yeah,
trail
absolutely.
and had around you because of what's happening, and people heard of you.
Mhm.
All of a sudden people heard of you and you met them on the trail. So that was pretty amazing too. If you look at your experience, is there something that just stands out that you really feel that you should share with the people who are here, who joined us today?
Well, I noticed that after being alone for a couple years, what became normal to me is not necessarily normal. And I write a lot about something that you touched on. And so I spent most of those years alone, like 99% of the time I
Mm-hmm.
was alone, or I mean, I wasn't even like seeing people because I did hike
Mm-hmm.
through the pandemic. Um, but I did notice that since I've returned to the front country, I have noticed, not just since, but while I was out there, I would talk with the trip coordinator, and uh, what started to happen was Black lives happened, the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic happened, social political movements happened during that time. And they would give me information when I would check in every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. I check in on the phone. And what they were telling me during that time was very disparaging.
Mm-hmm.
um, because I was involved in something like I felt was very positive and
Mm-hmm.
something very homeland kind of based because I was born here.
Yeah.
And what I kept hearing was that Americans were at each other's throats. And
Mm.
I was saddened by it, and other times I was disgusted.
Yeah.
What I want to say is that the reality that I experienced out there was not really like that. Now, I had issues with people. Okay. Um, there was gunplay, there were weapons fired, there were guns pulled. This stuff did happen when I was out there. There were extreme situations. That's going to happen as a traveler traveling for that many years. But what I can say is when I was meeting people, often they were interested in what I was doing. They didn't necessarily know what I was doing or even really care. And
Mm-hmm.
they didn't really care about what I had done. They didn't really care about who I was voting for or what side I was taking on anything. They just
Mm-hmm.
saw a human being
Yeah.
that needed some connection and maybe a warm shower, you
Yes.
know?
Definitely a warm shower.
And they, and it was a much different experience than maybe all the horrible negative experiences that we're bombarded with on the daily. So I, th- though there were some conflicts there, I didn't find that the real America, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should put real like in quotes
Yeah. I see what you're
because
saying
I
there.
is really like that. Because the people who have a platform speak the loudest, but they're only a small percentage of the people.
Yes.
The people that scream on social media are only like 10% of the actual population. And then there's the rest of us out here that just get along as well as we can with our neighbors, like we always have. Mm,
Yes.
And there's a lot more space and room there for all of us than I think what's being projected right now. And so that's one thing that I hope as people read these books and get to hear about the different experiences that I had while I was traveling, that maybe they can open their heart up a little bit as well
Mm-hmm.
and realize like we all just came from this earth. We were all
Yes.
birthed of the same soil. Every one of us has a mother. We all came out of the womb into this world just like this perfect little baby. And then based on our experience and stuff, we started shaping ways and creating ways to divide ourselves from others because humanity by nature is tribal. And
I agree.
that's, and
Oh,
that's
that's just,
okay. It
yeah.
creates community. And the community is the beautiful side of that. The flip side of the same coin is enemies and separation. So
Yeah.
um, I don't prescribe anything in particular, but there is a part of me that, with all the challenges that I experienced during this trek, I wanted it to be known that there were angels that showed up for me in many different ways that I couldn't even imagine. So,
I love that. And I do love those stories that all of a sudden you needed help or you needed a pair of shoes or whatever it is you needed to get a medicine and, you know, a ride showed up
mhm,
and somebody reached out and a community come together and provided help for a human being. And that's how it should be, right?
mhm,
And I agree 100% that we meant to be tribal, we meant to be together. And when you see the beauty of it, that is just, it warms the heart. Because I think part of it is just like your trail. It builds those connections. The way we meant to be, it kind of reminds us of home. And when you were just talking about, doing the trail and then hearing about all the bad things that happen in the world, I also want to say that I think when we are out in the natural element, that's where we meant to be. We meant to be amongst the trees. We meant to be, close to nature. And when we are close to nature, the noise of society also is more intense. Like, for example, when I went out to the land and I spent 2 weeks out in the land and no electronics, nothing else, everything removed. When I came back to society, it was almost like painful because everything was just so much, all the phones, all the television, all the people, after being kind of isolated, to have all that pressure and then also feeling all the negativity of it, right? Because the social media, as you were saying, all that 10% noise, the loud noise, is trying to push the negativity. And yet you just came from this. You're trying to create this amazing map and place for people, which is all positive. One thing that I love of it is that the parameter, it's kind of round. It's not exactly round because America is not exactly round, but still it feels to me like this circle of connection and love, because anybody can go from any point of America and connect to this trail, right? You can start in the middle and you can draw all these lines and build all these connections. So from when you started and you created this map, now anybody from anywhere in the world goes to that trail. It's a connection you created because you made it happen.
And and so that hit me when I had that vision 10 years
Mm-hmm.
before creating this. Like I said, I got the entire piece of it all at once,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't lost on me. Like I did realize that it was infinite, that there was no beginning, no end to it, because there's no terminus. And so that was a metaphor for the entire trip. You know, as far as I know, we don't have our first American Perimeter Trail baby, but they're coming. Um, because because we're starting the nonprofit and having members from all around the country, even
Mm-hmm.
states where the American Perimeter Trail doesn't go, which
Mm-hmm.
I found fascinating that we had people from Middle America that were joining as members. And we also have people from other countries that are
Yeah.
members of the conference. And so they have the opportunity to connect with each other now with this thing that they have in common. And like I said, I'm waiting to be invited to the first APT marriage and baby shower, um, if it hasn't already happened. So it's not a dating service. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But yeah, that piece of it uh, wasn't lost on me. And on the hard days, um, on the days where it could be something physical going on, it could just be an impossible obstacle. It could be something going on with the nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
That is the moments when I would have to rest in the spiritual components of being involved with something like this. And that would help center me and remind me of what the purpose of this was. And um, then I try to do that some in my normal life, in my day-to-day life. Even in writing these books, I'll have like a lot of noise that goes on in my head. that will say things like, who cares? Or, why are you doing this? Or what
Mhm.
is going on? And then whenever I have these like self doubts that come up or these feelings, these ideas, then I have a place where I can rest. And that place tells me that I am a person who has been very blessed to have been given this vision and this purpose and the ability to do it. Um, Also, this responsibility, and that that no matter what I'm doing out here in the world, including this interview, whether I feel like I'm doing it correctly or incorrectly or right or wrong, I know what my intention is behind it.
Yes.
And I know that my intention is just to leave this rock a little bit better than what I found
Yes.
it. You know, I'm also trying to have some fun before I croak. I'm trying to have a little
Which we
fun,
all should have some fun, right? Yeah.
and I am trying to leave it just a little bit better than what I found it. If I
Mhm.
can. I'm at least gonna give it a shot. And there are, I think a lot of people out there can relate to that.
Absolutely.
You go to a community event, or I don't know, stay at a cabin or something, and you always want to like clean up and like, or you work for an organization and you kind of just want to leave things a little bit better than how you found it. And that's what I'm doing for my personal mission. My hope is that that's helpful. Um, I have been told at times where I've chosen to take the route when we're talking about the people and actually being out in the woods and some of the
Mhm.
interactions. There is a lot of like being out in the woods. If you're traveling and there are other people and you're having a similar experience, you're kind of all in the same boat together. So it's like
Mhm.
beautiful, wonderful, amazing views. Everyone's like happy experiencing this nature. And then also, like, when it's just the weather is horrible, you want to be home. Like, what are we doing out here? Also, like, you're going through that
Mhm.
together. And so there's places where I've decided to take the route because I want it to be as inclusive as possible.
Mhm.
And what that has meant um, is trying to take it to places where there aren't any long trails. And those are the places where people tell me that I shouldn't because they're afraid of something. They're afraid of people that look different than them. They're afraid of people that are impoverished, or they just think, well, why go here? No one cares about it there. But it's not that no one cares about it. Everybody likes to go out in nature and fish and hunt and hike around, look for mushrooms and turn over rocks and pick up salamanders. Um, and so I've been cognizant of that and like looking at the route and seeing if it can go through some areas that are underserved or even states
Mhm.
that don't have long trails. And also college campuses as part of the mission of creating outdoor spaces for education. So
Mhm.
we say at the conference, um, we say the APT more than a trail because the trail is the vehicle, you
Mhm.
know, the trail is the apparatus in which we are trying to affect change for for society and also for the conservation corridor. Um, it's something for people to rally around. And I hope that in writing the books as well and people reading the books, that they get the sense of that it's more than just a book. You know, it's a it's a call. It's a call to our inner selves, what we
Mhm.
desire in this world and how we want the world to be, not how it is. Um, it's a battle cry for us to protect our birthright, which is clean water and clean air and open spaces in order uh, and enable us to express ourselves. um, this is what I hope, that when people are reading, that they see this is more than just a adventure story. And I won't preach to you in the books. I just tell you what happened. I made a ton of mistakes. I haven't shied away from them. And I try to really just say and talk about what happened during the time that I was out there. And some of it is joyous. But as you know from reading the first book, and the second book's actually like even a little more intense, it's not an easy, this was not a walk in the park, and it was not a
No,
vacation. It
not
was
at
not
all.
on vacation.
No.
I was trying to create a nonprofit and build a board of directors and like keep this whole project going from my tent. I was like, instead of working at the cubicle, I'm like doing board meetings in a tent, not having service, and then never having, not never, but like often, um, as you'll find out in book two, there's a point in time there before I started getting a lot of support where there would be like a day and I just wouldn't eat because like the project was out of money. Um, and that's where just I learned about not quitting. I'm I think learning when to quit, when to ask for help is important too.
Hmm.
Um, and so the I hope that I can really honor what happened and not what I wish would have happened, because not all of it's very flattering. And um and just keep it kind of like as real as possible so that people can share in it with me. And the hazards, as you know, like it doesn't stop in book two. Like I didn't get to a point and it just started getting easier. This was one of those trails that just got harder and harder and harder as time went on. And then I adapt to it. And then people started to realize the mission and the vision. And I started to get some support and help. And here we are. Yeah.
I actually really love that you are telling the rough truth, you
Mm,
know, in the book. You are not making it pretty. You are sharing it exactly as it was and also not being upset by it.
mm,
This is what happened. And when you read some of those things, I mean, if you're a human being, you feel it, that there's a lot more to it than just, oh, well, Rue didn't eat today. Well, he was also hiking. It was cold. And,
mm,
there's all these things that, like you were saying it before, or, you know, walking his shoes that falling apart and, just all those kind of things that can happen on a trail, which also happens to people in real life. Like look at our homeless population,
mm,
and all those other things. But I do love that you're also looking at this trail as positive influence on society, and then we're mindful of how did you design the trail
mm,
that it goes to specific areas,
mm,
not just necessarily all the areas that pretty,
mm,
or whatever, but being mindful of it. And I was thinking as you were talking about all these connections, I just feel like this trail is already building and going to build just so much connection
mm.
among people that even just that, any connection is worth it. Like that's how you and I connected,
That
because we had
is,
a mutual
yeah.
friend who talked to me about what you were doing, and I was immediately excited about it. And even though we didn't get together immediately, life happens. We made it happen. We republished the book, so now it's audiobook and ebooks, and anybody from all over the world can get it. And and you're continuing with the second one. And I think even just that, is amazing when connections happen. Uh, happen like this. I'm talking to this person, then talk to that person, then we make this happen, and I just really feel like what you created is going to do more and more of that.
Mm.
Just build these connections and bring positivity out of it, because there's enough negativity in the world. There's
Yeah,
enough noise in the world.
there's
Yeah.
plenty of that. And so I live in Bend, Oregon, and I'm often asked about what projects I have going on here. Really none. And I
Mhm.
have a reason for that. And the reason is because, l- in large part, we are a served community, just like even the greater Oregon area has got lots of long trails.
Mhm.
And other nonprofits that are supporting the Forest Service and the Park Service and building trails. So like for instance, when the Forest Service or the Park Service or BLM are not getting the funding that they need to build trails, there's nonprofits that have arisen for a need, because when institutions are not working, usually philanthropy goes up, and we
Mhm.
find that the nonprofit world will come in, or just a group of organized citizens will come in and kind of carry some of that weight. And we're so fortunate we have a lot of that here. But places like Louisiana and Mississippi, where
Alabama.
have they don't
Yeah.
they don't have a long trail.
No.
Um, and so I focus a lot of my work in that area. And it's
Mhm.
not as sexy to people, because
Mhm.
they want to see, like, oh, where does it go where there's the big jagged mountain peaks with glaciers, and it has that. It has that as well. But just going to every single inaccessible area that only people with means, in places where people don't even live because they're Forest Service land or their Park Service land, um, instead of it being like your neighborhood trail, um, this is why there are specific areas in which I focused on where people have been like, I don't really get it, and that's understandable, because
Yeah.
again, I'm not like creating the most technically involved trail, the most scenically astounding trail, even though it has all those parts. My personal focus is interested in these areas that, in my opinion, need some support, and they have been underserved, and they haven't had the investments by their leadership to invest into recreation and to invest into green spaces. Now, of course, I'm not the person coming from the outside that's going to force that on anyone. I'm just helping to organize it. So
Mhm.
even it's been interesting how much involvement there's been from Louisiana and also
Mhm.
Texas too, because Texas doesn't have a long
Yeah.
distance trail comparable to other places. And so these places are of really great interest to me, because I feel like it's going to serve a population, not like a greater population, but a population that just doesn't have it right now.
Yeah.
And if someone doesn't help organize and do this, it's just the leadership there is not going to. Like, I'm just a citizen. Like, I'm just a person who lives here, like everyone else. I don't have any kind of special privilege, or like I don't have a title. I am a person who just took on a personal mission. There's no like degree that you can get. There's it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz when they get to the wizard and he doesn't have any magic for them. He just believes in them, and he gives them a token, something that they can believe in, something that already existed there in themselves already. So I was a person who, I guess, like, there is a time in life where you just do things And you have to put aside, like, am I qualified? Am I the best for this? I write about this in volume 1 before I started, where I was like, there's got to be someone smarter. There's got to be someone more athletic. There's got to be someone
Nope.
more charismatic. There's got to be someone better looking. I didn't have any money. So, I mean, like, there's got to be I mean, I still don't. I just like, there's got to be a person that's has access to wealth and power. There is a lot of people out there that are better suited for this than me. I was like trying to talk myself out of it from the self-doubt. But at the end of the day, all it was is that
Yeah.
I was a person who was motivated, had an idea. I was willing to take huge risks. No, I took huge risk,
Yes.
very big risk, and you'll read about it in the volumes. And some of them were very foolish, and some of them were necessary, and some of them just happened. Like, I
Yeah.
was just in situations. But like I said, I didn't I didn't have like advantages going in to this, besides that I knew that I knew enough, and also that I was going to let my heart guide me the entire way.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like maybe I've lost track of that a little bit, because there is this business aspect of it. And this last year, I'm finding out a lot about that because of, we're not the only ones out there. And I won't speak for anyone else, but go look on any trail organization's website right now, or lots of nonprofits around the country. And they're all calling for people to kind of help out at this point in time. And we're not any different from that. So I've just tried to like lead as much as I can with my heart, and let that be seen, um and let it be valued. And if it's not valued, it's still like the way that I am on this planet. And I mean, I just, there are like probably business decisions I could have made that would have been different, but then it wouldn't be the same. So then it
Of
wouldn't
course.
be, so then it wouldn't be homegrown.
Mm-hmm.
Then it wouldn't be a grassroots movement. It would be something entirely different. And I'm okay with staying that course and having stayed this course the whole time. Um, and I think that it's a very fluid situation. And so I'm constantly monitoring what can be done. And I think that, it's not it seems like a backdoor way to like write some books about adventure when my whole
Mm-hmm.
goal is conservation. But if I know anything from past experiences of what I've seen in the world, it's people can fall in love with this idea from their own perspective in many different ways. Mm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I love what you said about focusing energies in places where there's no trails, because that was one of the things that I noticed when driving through those lower states. And now that you were mentioning, I was thinking about when I was driving to Texas or went to visit Texas a few times. And yeah, there was just not many places to go out and walk. Well, the heat is also quite a bit in those places, but I remember driving to parts of Alabama and Mississippi, and there was like not a trailhead available, or not like even a place. Like we had to hunt for a place to stop and eat out in nature, because it was not just like, oh, there's a rest stop, or there is a trail, or there is somewhere where you can go. That none of those were available. So my heart started to feel better when we reached California and started to come up, Oregon and these areas, because I know that Oregon, Washington, California, they have those stops, and they have those trails to take a break, do a little walk, and all those kind of things. But just because that place might not be popular or more poor or for whatever reason, people still need to get out in nature. And I think it's essential. It's essential for humans to be able to do that, to have the trails, to have parks and have different places where they can go and gather and enjoy nature no matter where you are. So
Yeah.
I love that you focus on those
Well,
areas.
I mean, I'm not. I'm not one of there's like these advocates out there. Well, I don't know, self-proclaimed advocates that are like, you need to get out more. Like, get outside. I'm not even like that. I just want to create the spaces where that's possible, and then you can do
Yeah,
whatever you like. You know,
yeah.
you can do
But
whatever
if
you
you don't
want.
have the space, it's much more difficult to get out there, right? Because
Yeah,
where you
of
go, what you
course.
do, yeah.
Right. And that's like I said, our advocates out there. Um, our social media advocates that are like, stop racism and get outside. And I mean, yelling like, let's get something, like, let's work. There's work there to be done. So I don't, um, I just want to create the spaces. And then what I've also realized is um, the trails are becoming more crowded in some areas.
Yes, that's true.
So that's the other side of that is places where there already are infrastructure, but it's getting this like idea of you've heard like being loved to death. And
Sometimes it's too much and it's actually causing harm to nature that they have to limit how many people go in at a time. Like there's that one there's many of them in Bend actually that like waterfalls and certain things like there's too many people going, which is like switching to the other end
mhm.
that is not good as well. So you have to be like kind of mindful and respectful when you go out to nature as well.
And that's part of why in creating this and doing this, people have asked me like, why are you not just using the major popular trails as the route the entire time? Um,
Hmm.
and I'll just state this, and you'll read about it in volume 3, but you'll read about it actually in volume 2. But I didn't use the Appalachian Trail going up the East Coast, and everyone like just assumed that's the way that I was going to go.
Hmm.
And so we had these and I did it, and the route doesn't go there, but my idea is like there are all of these trails and areas out here, and you can go out there and there is no one out there. And then there'll be
Hmm.
this one trail that's popular. Sometimes not the best trail, just the most popular. And everyone will be there because everybody wants to be on that trail. And I understand that. Like I feel compelled in that way as well. Um, but I wanted to give some other options and
Hmm.
some other places that uh, to kind of maybe create some disbursement, places that
Yeah, absolutely.
instead of just like everyone grinding down the same trail, that there's some other opportunities there for people who don't want to do that, or maybe they want a more solitary experience. So we've seen large growth as far as the through hiking population, which is interesting because 20 years ago, the you didn't really consider through hikers as part of like first of all, they didn't make up much of the membership because there's so few of
Hmm.
them to any trail organization. If you have like 1,000 people who try to hike the Appalachian Trail every year, you have, you know, 1.5 million people that will be spending time out there that summer that aren't distance hiking. So, um, but as time has gone on, like those numbers have gotten bigger and bigger and have started to have more of an effect on a trail. And so I thought it would be interesting to kind of bring something new to the table instead of asking for more people to go into places where there's already enough people there right now. So, um, and that is, so we have like, it's a long trail. So it doesn't have
Hmm.
to have a singular kind of aspect to it. In some places,
Absolutely.
in some places it makes more sense to go closer to an urban area. And other places, it makes sense to go away from that because it's just the nature of the region in
Hmm.
which it's in. And it, that's the other thing that I wanted to share today too. And I hope I can express this in the books is that America is not homogenous. And so it's very, very different from one region to the next. It holds like most of the same kind of character. They're like just just people doing life. Um, but there is definitely a huge difference in like attitudes and culture depending on where you're at in this country. And that's one of the really beautiful things that I got to experience. And I like taking the trail to different areas, like I said, where there isn't long trails. There is just like gorgeous places all around this country. And I um, would hate for some of those to be taken advantage of, used for greed, not used for the communities in which the areas actually are or serve those communities. And so there are some people who have an interest in the American Perimeter Trail. It's like bringing some commerce to their sleepy village, bringing some recreation and some people on the weekend because they're depressed areas. And that is another aspect of it. Um, but again, like we come back to more than a trail. It's more
Yes.
than, it's more than just the trail. And I'm fortunate that I got to be more than just a backpacker. I got to explore a lot of who I am during this time because I already knew I was a backpacker. Um, and then there's everything else plus 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 that has come along with this. So, including being an author, I did not. I should say that. I should say that. I still have trouble with that. It's like, um,
Well, you are.
I'll
You are an
forget.
author.
I'll
Yeah.
forget because I'm like, so I'm thinking of myself as the executive director of the conference, and then I'll be doing something or talking to someone, and I forget they want to talk to me about the book, and I'm
Hmm.
like talking about the personal mission of the conference. Uh, so I had no intentions of writing a book or telling this story when I started. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of things I didn't have any intention of doing when I started this. I mean, my idea of how this was all going to go down and happen was much different than what has actually happened. So, yeah, I was not a person who was like, I'm going to go do this thing so then I can write a book about it. I was like, people told me for years, you should write a book about that. You should write a book about that. And I had the same answer. Even after I finished, I had the same answer. I was like, I'm not writing a book about that. Like, I'm a constant, I'm a conservationist. I don't have time for this. Like I've got other things to do. You go write the book. Like I'm busy. Man, I gotta hike 20 to 40 miles a day, and like I still have to like run this organization and figure out how this is all gonna work. And you want me to write a book on top of like, no, I don't think so. But I really appreciated people wanted to know more about it. And and so then I was done with most of the backpacking the first I had to go back and I spent like a year or two going back and rerouting and redoing stuff and backpacking. But after like finishing the actual loop, um, yeah, I just continued hearing that in interviews. You should write a book. You should write a book. No, 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 I'm not writing a book. And then I wrote a book. So here we
You
are.
wrote a book,
I
and now
wrote a
you're
book.
writing
And
another one.
now I'm writing 4 books. So
Yeah.
um,
I mean, and I don't know if you also imagined in the beginning that you're going to be doing interviews and doing all the different type of, podcast and all it, and who knows what else the future brings.
I had a lot of help with that because left to my own devices, I'm a private person.
Hmm.
And so I got nudged. I got nudged a lot. And I have surrendered to a lot of that because I was in this situation where I thought that I could like form the APT community, but then I would like not be a part of it because I'm like this lone guy out in the woods. And then um, then like I could promote this, but then maybe someone else could do it. And we even tried at times. And people that started getting involved were like, Rue, they want to talk to you. Like it was your idea. You formed the
Yeah,
org. Like
it's
you're
your
the one that's
baby.
you're the only
Yeah.
person that's backpacked it. And I was like, there's
Hmm.
got to be someone better suited for this. You know, like
No.
I don't want to do this. And I also didn't want to share any of my private life. You know, I didn't want it. Just, I don't know. That wasn't my idea, and I thought that maybe it would have to be that way at some point, and so it's still that way. And don't get me wrong, like I'm happy to do this stuff. And if you read the books, I don't shy away from the private stuff because I just made a decision I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
And then instead of like trying to feel my way through that, like, do I share this? Do I not share this? I was like, I'm just gonna write what it was and then just leave it at
And
that.
I love that. I love that you did that because I think it's one of the most honest books that I have read because you just say what happened and this is what happened and that's it. There's no fluffing it up. There's no, making it look pretty or not sharing something. It's the rough truth what happened out there. And it's beautiful
Well,
because of that.
I was self-conscious about that a little bit because people would really romanticize my experience,
Hmm.
not like uh, intentionally. It
Yeah.
was just when they heard about someone doing something that I did, what came to their mind was like, I don't know, something very romantic,
Hmm.
like, you know, I'm thinking like Henry David Thoreau or like John Muir and their writings and how they sometimes like glorify and romanticize things that are very
Hmm.
heartfelt in the moment, but it's not the whole story. And so
Yeah.
we have to understand like people like Thoreau, um, it wasn't like always a happy, jolly guy at all. And John Muir, he has all these spiritual experiences in the mountains and the Sierras, but then even towards the end of his life, he's saying, the rocks no longer speak to me.
Hmm.
He stopped going up there. And um, what I wanted to do was not uh, romanticize these things,
Hmm.
um, and just wanted to be as true to the experience as possible because I could, and I know that there are people disappointed by that, and I'm just gonna have to let them. Like
Oh yeah.
they want me just to sing the praises of like this is go in nature and you'll solve all your problems. Um, there's a lot of that right now going on with people being like
That
I
magic
fixed
wand.
yeah, I fixed my mental health by through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. Okay, that's not
There's more to that
a
story.
long-term
And
strategy. That's a very
yes. Yes.
dangerous strategy, actually. And so,
Yeah.
I want people to know that there's like all these intrinsic qualities in which to enjoy these great American spaces. But also, like the thing is, I wasn't doing it in moderation. So anything that gets that kind of intensive is going to have consequences to it.
Absolutely.
And I can remember having uh, a very hard time on the trail. I don't recall exactly. Maybe I was 2 years in or something. I hadn't camped with anyone in over a year and a half. It was just like lonely, um, tired, sick. Um, all the things. My body was not happy with me, just all this stuff. And I remember like talking to a friend and they were like, "You know what you should do? You should go for a walk." And I wanted to slap them, okay? Because I'm hiking 20 to
Yes.
40 miles every single day. You know what, Rue? I think you just need to go for a walk. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they just said that to me. And so what I mean by that is like, yes, in my life here, my regular life, going for a walk is great and it's big
Yeah.
medicine. But anything that gets done to the extreme and to the extent, and I talk about that, is going to have some consequences. And it's not like there is a threshold and in which you
Yeah.
do anything. If you go on walks, that's good. But if you only walk your entire life, not so good anymore. Like
Yeah.
too much. So um so I didn't want to romanticize the experience. It's the biggest honor and the biggest education that I could ever possibly imagine. And for that, I'm grateful. And on good days, I'm grateful for the hardships. There was a period of time. Actually, this is how the first volume ends, and I'll pick up on it in the second volume. But I am being treated for Giardia, which is a intestinal infection, bacterial infection that people can get from all different ways. You can get it from bad water, you can get it from bad food. Um, and I'm being treated for this. And I can remember at the time uh, having some glimpse of gratitude for just being alive, like
Yeah.
being able to be sick. I know that's probably not, mm, I had to reach really deep inside, and I still do every day to find gratitude for things that seem so contrary.
Mm-hmm.
Even loneliness, the kind of loneliness I experienced out there, I'm really grateful for that because I was experiencing some loneliness the other day and I knew what it was. Like I knew it, like I could see it and I could feel it and I could be okay with it. And I could
Mm-hmm.
be all right with just having these feelings of being a human being, having a human being experience. And I'm grateful for all the people that taught me lessons along the way. So when I'm writing, I'm not complaining and I'm not a victim to any of it. Um, Even some of the hard parts where I haven't talked about a lot, I write about in the books, and that is being detained a lot. Uh, and that comes up in volume 2 because I'm backpacking near the United States Mexican border. So I'm like under surveillance for weeks while I'm down there, and I'm detained a lot during that time, not because I'm trespassing, not because anything illegal is happening, just because I'm a person that they want to talk to and find out what the heck, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And it happened in almost every state. It happened in pretty much every state here. And so that's the side of it too, was like I was
Mm-hmm.
treated great by people. I was treated horrible by people. And I didn't know, I didn't know to the extent some of the challenges because what happened is with the experience of backpacking before, I thought I was through a lot of the yets, as in like, this hasn't happened yet. I thought
Mm-hmm.
like all those years of backpacking that pretty much like things that happened and I'd gotten through them. So like it'll be round 2 the next time I come across it. But what I found out on the American Perimeter Trail was there were just like situation after situation that just hadn't come up in
Before.
the other experiences. And some of that
Yeah.
is just going off the beaten path. Some
Yeah.
of that is just not being on a popular trail or on a trail at all, just not being on a trail.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so I share that stuff, and that's why it's been the big education, whether I like it or not. It's been a huge teacher, and really, what I wanted to do is I. What I was hoping through the journey was that I was going to get some information and that I was going to be able to like bring some attention to the project and that I would have something more to share than before I left. And that's the whole idea of like just trying to leave the world a little bit better than I found it. And I was kind of hoping that I would learn some things through this experience that would help with that. And it's not a get rich scheme or like get famous. Because if it was, it was a bad idea because it didn't work. But
No,
the
you had
joy
a
that,
vision.
but the joy
You
that
had-
but the joy that I get to have just getting to speak with you today and share this with other people. Also, the other people that have taken this up as their personal mission. I've loved that.
Mhm.
That because I never wanted it to be mine in the first place. I always wanted this to be a shared effort. And like my bones are going to roll out of this earth at some point. So I hope people are willing to make it their own. Yeah, to make it their own. It's not my trail. And they're not even really my books. It's just a story. And I want to share it with other people. And that's it. Mm.
I think that is magical, Rue. Really, it touches my heart. So your mission is complete. You know, I
Good.
think
Thank
if it
you.
touches my heart, it touches other people's heart as well, because it is just something to make and create for the community. And you're not doing it, as you said, to be rich, to be anything, just because you have this vision and there is, why not? And you made it happen.
So,
And it took this many years, and now you're sharing your story, just like I share my story through books. And Gideon, who joined us today, he's a storyteller as well. And I have a feeling that he's probably going to want to interview you after this, right, Gideon? I'll check in with him after. But I think we learn from this. As you said, we are tribal people. When we come together, we share stories, and whoever will watch this later on a YouTube video and or Substack, and as we share it, people learn from it, people get inspiration from it, people will look it up and say, oh, what is this? What is this APT? And how this all works. And it might inspire them also to do other things. Maybe, as you said, trails in their communities or places in their communities where people can come together or go, or you just never know. So you start at this idea, right? This perimeter, but this might start to snowball into other projects and other ideas and other inspirations. And hopefully it will live on, as you said. And yeah, I love it. And thank you so much for coming and talking with me today. And hopefully we'll have many, many more of these conversations as more about this book and the next book, and just to kind of raise awareness and support. So as we are wrapping up, I would like for you to share like how other people can help, where they would find, the website, and kind of if they want to get in contact or anything like that, what are the best places to find more out about the trail and
great.
you.
Thanks for the opportunity. You can find the American Perimeter Trail conference anywhere where you have social media. So however that works for you, just type us in there. And then also you can visit our website at americanperimetertrail.org. We are a 501c3. You're welcome to join on as an annual member or to make contributions, or just go look around. There's maps there, there's interactive maps, and we have links so you can get to that app that I talked about that we built. So you can load that on your phone, and that's for free for you. Um, and just basically, anywhere where you're going to find your information and news, you will find us. Google searches work as well if you want to look at other podcasts, or if you want to read interviews or see things from previously that we've done over the years. Also, there's a way to volunteer, but you'll find all of that at our website. And I look forward to connecting with all of you in the upcoming years.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rue, again for coming and talking with me today. And I love our connection and collaboration. And I believe we're going to do many more beautiful things. And I'm very excited to publish your next upcoming book, which more to come about that. down the line. And thank you for all of those who impromptu joined us live today, and all of you who are going to watch this video later down the road. And please make comments, ask questions. We are happy to come back and talk to you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye, everyone.
Fair winds.